My name is Tina Cintron. Actually, it's Nora Cintron. Everybody calls me Tina. It's a nickname from childhood. I met Reverend Jiko about 8.5 years ago, and just coming to this area to live, and I asked my son, is there a Buddhist temple nearby? And he said, yeah, there's one across the street. And sure enough, here was Daifukuji Soto Mission. I walked in and Reverend Jiko was so warm and welcoming, and I've just been at home here ever since. So over the years, Reverend Jiko's been wonderful to me, trained me on how to take care of the front altar, asked me to do little art jobs, which ended up being not so little. She asked me to redesign the Daifukuji t-shirt and the official stamp of the temple. I'm quite honored by all of these things that I've done. I was also involved in a 4-scroll project with other temple members, of actually Buddhist members, because I got to work with different priests. And we all put things together and came up with scrolls that have gone throughout the state. So I was born and raised on Oahu, a northern island of Hawaiʻi, and I've been doing artwork ever since I can remember. And that's enough about me. So how did this all come into being? 2 years ago, Reverend Jiko approached me and said, Tina, I had this dream. I had this incredible dream about the 33 Kannon, and they were all different colors of people and different ages, and they were animals and people, and it was just an amazing, colorful dream. So she said, this is when I was just bowled over. She said, I want you to paint it. And it was like being hit with a bucket of ice water. I was just astounded because the scope of what she had talked about was so huge. I thought about it for a year, and COVID had hit in that year. So I was overseas for a while. I meditated, I prayed, I cried, I did my research, and nothing happened for a year. And then I finally was able to come back to Hawaii, and Sensei and I finally got to have lunch together, and we were talking, and all of a sudden, phew, I saw what I needed to do just after talking about it for about 15 minutes. And I needed her energy near me to make this happen. And so little by little, you're gonna see what happened. Kona coffee is world famous, and here it's featured with a kupuna, a senior citizen, teaching a keiki, so an elder teaching a younger child about the history and how to harvest and take care of this precious crop. So they're holding the typical woven baskets and going over how to select that. Another thing that Kona is famous for, and Hawaiʻi Island, are for the orchids. And knowledge between an elder and a younger is so important because there's so many different ways of handling plants, and the tricks and the expertise come from our elders. This is Bodhisattva Bato. Bato is the horse-headed deity who protects animals. So here we have our wild boar, which drive everybody crazy on this island, mongoose, nene, which is our state bird. They look like miniature Canadian geese. butterflies and our minor birds, and there'll be other birds throughout, and of course our beloved pets. So mom and baby. Now, who's the bodhisattva here? It's hard to tell. Sometimes babies heal families, sometimes mums make magic happen. Here is one of our multiracial representations, Zen monk, our Hawaiian tutu, a lay seller. What is a bodhisattva? A bodhisattva is someone who has reached enlightenment but has returned to help others reach enlightenment and will not leave until everyone reaches enlightenment. So how do we express these helpful things? Sometimes by feeding people, sometimes by just making them smile. Baby Siddhartha, before he became the Buddha, and they said at his birth, he got up and he walked and lotus appeared as he stepped. Here is Avalokiteshvara. This is a male expression of Kannon. It's an evolution, so this is a very ancient representation of the one who expresses compassion and wisdom. It doesn't matter what the job is, it's putting our heart and soul. You can wash dishes with great meaning, the art of sweeping. That is the representation I put here. We're deeply into the COVID crisis, our world pandemic. This is 2021. And of course, our frontline workers come with their compassion and wisdom and their healing thoughts and hands, doing their best to keep people safe and alive. And that's panel number 1. So I'm going to start with the center because this is the key to everything. This is a representation of what is in Daifukuji Soto Mission. This is our beautiful Kannon Sama. And Kannon is a bodhisattva and takes many different forms over the centuries. And you'll hear this expressed as Guan Yin in China, as I showed you in the other panel, Avalokiteshvara, one who hears the cries of the world is how it can be interpreted. We have so many beautiful exotic plants and of course our wonderful lotus. Okay, we have Guan Yin here. Guan Yin or Guan Yin, depending on the dialect. And this is a very regal pose. To me, education is supremely important. The ability to read and write and to change people's lives. Now, our Reverend Jiko is the first American reverend to run Daifukuji Soto Mission. She's also the first female. This is very, very, very important to me and why I love this temple so much. So to me, female education is of utmost importance. For centuries, women were not taught to read and write except by very enlightened groups of societies. So we're working on it, and that's what this is about. We have our kupuna bringing mochi to the altar. So this is for New Year's. You gotta have your mochi and your orange with 2 leaves, very important. Lotus is very important to us too because it grows out of mud. It has to come out of muddy water in order to prosper and reach for the sun, reach for enlightenment and blossom. And that's why the lotus is so important. Balancing out our senior is our little junior, our little tiny one. Babies can be so amazing and make us stop and think about what we're doing and saying because they are such mirrors of the adults around them. And of course, we were all babies at one time. Sometimes misfortune, it can really change our lives for the better. I'm not saying that losing a limb is a good thing. Who knows, though? That's a judgment on my part. And this is representational of people who have overcome something that most of us would find unbearable until it happens and we change our mind. Passing on knowledge and love to someone who may be suffering and doesn't quite know their way out. We have our bodhisattvas who hear our suffering and come with wisdom and compassion to pass on. This is a representation of a Buddhist nun. Again, women are being more and more represented in a proper way in all aspects of Buddhism. You'll see Kannon quite often wearing an 11-headed crown. And the story goes that Kannon heard all the cries of the world and was so distressed and thinking so hard that her head exploded into 11 pieces, and one of the upper deities gave her 11 faces, 11 heads. And she was stretching out her arms and working so hard, her arms exploded into 1,000 pieces, hence turned into 1,000 arms. But there's all kinds of wonderful symbolism, just incredible. We have our famous Bodhi tree leaves, under which Buddha reached his enlightenment. And that's panel number 2. This time, not a human, but our animal bodhisattva, some little thing that takes great compassion and wisdom and protects and loves us. And in this case, it's a seeing-eye dog. Okay, we have a hula dancer here wearing a beautiful holoku and our ukulele player. Music and dance are expressions of love and beauty and quite often move us in ways that can be very healing and just covering us with beauty and sweetness. So that's why I put them there. Our beautiful Kona sunsets are just fabulous over the Pacific Ocean. This is White Tara. She is an expression in the Tibetan form of our Avalokiteshvara. Now, Avalokiteshvara is neither male nor female, but in the Tibetan expression, Tara is definitely the female expression. So if you look at a Kannon statue, which is the Japanese expression, it is very asexual looking. And quite often, if you go up to a Kannon statue, which I didn't mention in the other panel, you'll see a little tiny mustache, which is the representation of the male and female aspect, where in Tibetan Buddhism, there's quite a separation. So you can take note of that. Again, sitting on a moon disc with the lotus petals there. Here we have night blooming cereus, which is a fabulous, magnificent plant that blooms at the full moon, usually once a year. Here I have represented a Hawaiian healer, and these are experts in our native plants that do wonderful magic healing type things. I have not personally experienced it, but I've heard amazing things, and this is an ancient Hawaiian method of healing. So now we're moving into nighttime, which is also representative of possibly the closure of life, if you want to look at that. Another transition into a different existence. So right here we have a Bon dance going on. Obon is the celebration and remembering of those that went before us, of our ancestors. This is specifically Japanese, but it is based in Buddhism. So it's a wonderful time of year. In Japan, it's held a little differently than it is in Hawaii. In Hawaii, we celebrate it June through August because all around the island, every weekend, one of the temples has their Bon dance, and everybody goes there, and it's wonderful. You don't have to be Buddhist or Japanese, you just show up and have a good time. We dance in a circle, and they're very set dances that repeat, so anybody can learn them very quickly. Here I have some taiko drummers and our teachers that are very dedicated into passing it on. And each temple has their own set of dances. Every temple has a different rhythm to it and different drummers. It's quite a joyful time of year. It's not somber at all. So we're thanking everybody that went before us that has taken the time to give us life and a life. Here we have some amazing gravestones that really exist, and they are up behind the temple in the temple cemetery. And then we come to S. Saito, and because of this young man's demise, his older brother, Makoto Saito, commissioned the Kannon-sama statue that is in our temple. So that's why I put him here. And thuriums are very important on Hawaiʻi Island. They are not only a crop, they're beautiful, and we're famous for them. Now we're ending with a banyan tree. And I worked hard to make this not look creepy, because sometimes they can look a little bit spooky, but they are very dominant in Hawaii. They're originally from India, and they set down aerial roots. You can see a really fantastic banyan tree on the island of Maui. It's a city block large, but it started from one tree many years ago. This concludes panel number 3 and the scroll painting.